Hello, hello, hello. This is Misty Magdalena Grace with the new and improved version of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, where we talk about spirituality, psychedelics, plant medicine, microdosing, and really that journey within to finding your best innate wisdom, to your best health, your best wealth through all sorts of inner child healing, trauma release, grief recovery, overcoming addictions, and working with the mind, the body, and spirit. So go ahead, leave a review, subscribe, download. We look forward to your feedback. Thanks for tuning in today. All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday at the time of this recording. As of today, it is May 16th. Oh my gosh, we're already halfway through the month of May and already almost halfway through the year of 2024. And oh my gosh, what a year it has been. I'm super excited to have you here today, Gary. I just want to remind our listeners, if you're watching us on the live, we're always excited to have live listeners. If you're not watching us on the live, please come inside where the water is warm. You can join my Facebook group, subscribe to me on YouTube, as well as become connected to me on LinkedIn as well. And my mission as a spiritual teacher, healer, and medicine woman on this show is to always bring compelling guests with timely messages. And a lot of you have heard me talk about like little whisperings of this thing called New Earth and Ascension. There's different labels or titles that it's called. And I met Gary last year through the joint venture directory, and he really impressed me, stayed connected, and has some really exciting books that he's writing. And so I wanted to bring him in today because as we go through 2024, 2025, the world is changing. We're all being reborn. Both Gary and I were talking before we got on here that ultimately we both were kind of feeling the energies this week. So we'll talk about what that even means, what that looks like. So Gary, without further ado, I want to welcome you here and introduce you. So he is a shamanic healer, a Reiki Master, and he's presently writing a book, which is what we're going to talk mostly about today, amongst other things. It's about the new horizons, the principles of the new horizons, which is the new earth. And I know we're going to explain more about those principles today. So Gary, I'd love for you to share a little bit about your story and where you've been and where you're going.
Thanks, Magdalena. It's great to be on with you today. Good to see you again, too. Oh gosh, I really was introduced to this path 30 years ago, and I kind of got distracted and pulled off by some other things. But I got my master's in counseling, and us Geminis do more than one thing at once, of course. So I have a bachelor's in marketing and didn't feel fulfilled with that, didn't feel that was what was in my heart. So went ahead and got the master's in counseling, and then started looking at different spiritual paths and started a private practice a long time ago. Got my Reiki 1 and 2, and that really opened up my intuition at that point. And started integrating that with my work with clients. So I ran little tiny classifieds in national magazines eons ago, like New Age Journal or Yoga Journal, for intuitive counseling, and had phone clients that way. So I would tune in and help them move through their trauma without ever seeing them. So there was no internet and no Zoom back in those days. It was just all the vibes and the sound of the voice. Kind of got distracted off my path by some things, and then a few years later came back. Also moved back to Illinois at that point, which is where I'm from. And so in the last few years, I've gone through a couple crises of having my mom and dad pass, and I'm an only child, and that was difficult in dealing with all that. And then I had a health crisis. I've had a few near-death experiences and went through a few in the last few years. So that I've been saved from and repaired thanks to modern medicine. But like a shamanic crisis, it's one of those things where you can't do anything about it yourself. And you get back on your path, get your act together, so to speak, and then things start to flow again. So I've been trained as a Celtic shamanic practitioner and had a couple years of training with that. I'm still in touch with my teacher, and bring in my intuitive work as much as I can into my work with clients. So we do a little bit of talk therapy, and we do Shamanic Reiki, working with the inner child, sending the inner child Reiki, having the client work with their inner child, and then doing soul retrieval, which is more the classic soul retrieval in the shamanic perspective, a little bit different, but basically. And I was asking Spirit, what can we do? Because sometimes I'm a big picture person. What can we do to create what we want in the world? And everything seems to be falling apart right now. And shamanism would call it a dismemberment, where the old ways are falling apart and dying and becoming fertilizer, basically, in the earth for something new. But if we spiritual people don't step up and decide what we want to do, what do we want to create and put our energy towards, and what principles can we use for that, then we're not moving forward. So that's how New Horizons came about.
Wow, you did a great job, by the way, of summarizing that.
Because now
yeah, as you shared, there's so much in there that reminds me of my story, and having lost all my parents and a brother, and just going through that grief process, and then you feel lost, dazed, and confused. And if you don't know how to heal from that, it can be, very, very devastating and damaging, and it almost causes like that death and rebirth, because now you don't have parents, at least not on this plane or in this realm. You're figuring out your career. Who am I in this world? I think so many people, I'm saying this because I know my listeners can really relate to that. And I actually just got a tattoo on my back of our sanctuary logo, if you will, the lotus throne, that death, rebirth, renewal. That's why I have Kuan Yin right back here, that lotus flower symbolizing that ability to die to the self and then to be reborn as this new being. That's happened for millennia, but in this time, in this day and age, it's very, very different and very special. So I'd love for you to share, before we go into the principles and talking about New Horizons, is what does the new earth mean to you, especially given your shamanic abilities and what's happening on the planet right now?
It's creating what we want to replace the present world system in a way, and putting our energy towards what we want, and defining how we can help each other and be lights in that world. So a lot of the present energy where we feel the negativity is coming from people who are resisting the change, scared of the change, don't understand the change, which I get that. But if we're not moving towards a positive direction and defining where we go, then we're kind of directionless. But this is what's been prophesied from, if it's Navajo teachings or all kinds of mystics for so long, that in a time of environmental crisis, like climate crisis, I think one Native American teaching said the star people would come and the children of the star people would come and start making a new way. So we're to be the lights and the healers, bringing this new way, and seeing things shift, expecting things to shift. Mm-hmm. So I ask Spirit, what can we do? What principles do we need? And there's the shamanic principle of dreaming the new world into being. So that's going into the trance state, putting energy towards what you want to bring light to, bringing light to those situations when you're in the spirit realm. And there's some other principles that we can do in the natural realm as well. So what I feel was directly taught to me are things from mainly Native American, but other indigenous cultures. What have we lost in our Western culture, and what can we gain back, and how do we do that?
Well, yeah, you're speaking my language, because as I went into the sacred plant medicine, that's where I reconnected with my inner medicine woman. And I'd like to maybe talk about this too. All of these things are just popping in my brain, Gary. So we will get to the principles, but I do know, because I've experienced it. I've been on both sides of this word, shaman or shamanic. there's a lot of anger around that word. It has been used, it has been abused. I know I've experienced shamanic practitioners and shamans who were very hurtful and not walking the walk, talking the talk, and but they're also human, right? So that happens. It's normal. But I think I've had to shift that because my husband's a shaman, right? So at first I was like, we're not calling you that because of my trauma and that experience. And there are some people I've had arguments actually when I tell people my husband is a shaman, there's a lot of buzz and trigger and anger in that word. So maybe if you can describe that too, because I feel like you and I would agree on this statement that everyone has an inner shaman or an inner teacher, a divine teacher inside. But to say dreaming in a being with shamanic work or dreaming, some people might be shut down by that. So I'm going to shut up now and let you talk.
That's fine. And we're happy to hear you too. Well, there's a difference in my mind between an indigenous shaman, one that's still living in an indigenous culture that fulfills that role as a mystic and a cultural leader in their tribe, and we Westerners who've been trained as shamanic practitioners, quote unquote. So shamanic practitioners go along with Michael Harner's book, which came out in the 80s, of The Way of the Shaman. And it's soul retrieval. It's going into the spirit world through a trance state. It's those principles that we use outside of any kind of cultural trappings or trimmings. So we're not stealing anything from a particular culture when we use the shamanic practitioner label, but it's mainly for healing. So it's the medicine woman or medicine man image, but doing those core shamanic practices.
Yeah, and I think it's good to remind all of you as listeners of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise and any brand new listeners, like my path, I was in health and fitness. So similar to you, again, we have a lot of similar threads. Like I was in the health and fitness industry for 17 years. So food was my medicine, right? I taught people how to grocery shop, shop in the grocery store, how to, get rid of the crap and the processed foods and eat whole foods, fruits and vegetables and grains. So food as medicine. And I didn't realize how we all have an inner healer and an inner teacher that is really our inner, dreamer, our inner shaman, our inner medicine woman, medicine man. You don't have to be in those other countries or even be a practitioner like you to study to go within and create a new world for yourself. So I just want to share that because I think sometimes people think when we're talking as healers and practitioners that it's up here, but I really want people to go inside and all of the things he's about to share apply to you. They apply to everyone. That's what this new earth is about, is it's equal opportunity. There's no more guru, in the sky or in the front of the church or whatever. The guru is inside of you. And it's really important. I had to, spend a lot of time with plant medicine to remember that. I forgot because we come in these bodies with amnesia and we're always looking to the figurehead or the preacher, the teacher, the leader for all the answers, and look at where that has gotten us. Oh, by the way. And I think I had to say that because that's one of the biggest changes, right? The government systems, the money systems, the religious organizations, everything is starting to just like crumble, which is very scary, very destabilizing because we haven't been taught to go inside, at least not for a few thousands of years. So,
Right.
if you want to add anything to that?
I got hurt by churches that I was in, 3 different churches over a few years. And that's where I reached a point right when I finished my master's. I said, okay, so what is my healthy spiritual path? What am I supposed to be doing? And I got directed to my path of where I'm supposed to go. So I went through similar disillusionment and hurt with all that. So, but yes, what we're going to talk about today is one part is healing the inner mystic, restoring and healing the inner mystic, or you call it the inner shaman.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, connecting with spirit inside instead of relying on other people or books or whatever as your main source. And people and books are necessary and they're good and we learn from them, but they're not the main source. They don't supersede your own connection with spirit. So shamanism and a lot of these spiritual paths that are similar rely on your direct experience of spirit for yourself.
Yeah, and we do want to honor that because I'm equal opportunity. I just had a testimonial of a client who's a Christian. She came to one of our healing ceremonies, and um, she had the deepest experience with Christ she's ever had. And so we support all paths here. I just want to put that out there. Regardless, it's more about what does that mean for you internally versus maybe a dogma or something that was given to you, but do you wrestle with it? Do you believe it fully in your heart, and is it helping you get more into your internal journey, or is it more outside of yourself? And we're talking more about that internal path and quest to discovering and remembering who you truly are, and what is your beliefs, not maybe your siblings or your parents, and it may also be the same, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are waking up and starting to realize that maybe there is something different. Then maybe I should check into that. And it's I just encourage you to listen to that voice if that's calling to you, like it has for me and Gary. So I'd love for you to run us through your principles of New Earth again for the book that you're writing right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to. One thing in listening to you, one of my big inspirations has been Matthew Fox, if you've heard of creation spirituality. And he used to be a Catholic priest, and they defrocked him for what he taught. So he's been out on his own for a while. So he talks about original blessing instead of original sin. But he's also started a group. Well, creation spirituality is, again, finding God through creation, finding God through nature, which is part of what I've written about also. But I'm a Gemini. So my Gemini side note with that is he talks about Christian mystics, that there were mystics that listened to the inner voice in Christianity, especially in the Middle Ages, and that he quotes some of them all the time. And that should be inspiration to, like, your client who came to your healing ceremony, that yes, restoring the inner mystic can happen with Christian path as well, but you're just not relying on the outside authorities or forces to tell you what to do and what to believe.
Wow, very important. Thank you for adding to that clarification.
Sure. So, like Magdalena said, everything seems to be upside down right now. Everything is in a state of flux, being torn apart, but that's so something new can be born and rebuilt. So now is our time to ask Spirit for help with that. And it's also our time to decide what we want and to start putting energy to create what we want. And we can go into the spirit world or the dream time or whatever and put energy towards creating the kind of world we want to create. But it means healing our own spiritual path. And like we said, looking for your connection with spirit within. So let me go through some of the principles quickly. We're all indigenous from somewhere. And what's interesting is, well, I'm an English, Irish, and German mutt. That's my bloodline background in this life. So you go back far enough, and in those cultures, you will see something shamanistic and earth-based in those cultures in Europe if you go far enough back before Middle Ages times. So what's interesting is every place in the world had similar beliefs like this and talked about spirit in the same way. So we're not stealing from a particular culture, but yet I borrowed some terms from Native American. My other little Gemini side note is here in Central Illinois in the 90s, eons ago now, there was a spiritual group here in town called New Horizons, which I was a member of. And that's where I'm kind of paying homage to that and calling it New Horizons. But the name also fits what we're talking about. So that's kind of where that came from. So the themes of these principles are creating better connection with ourselves, better connection with spirit inside, better connection with the earth, and better connection with each other. Because if we don't heal our relationship with the earth and change our culture around that, we're all going to die. And that's just the blunt truth of it. that we have to change how we're doing things and how we relate to the earth and see that spirit is in the earth, or we don't get another chance. So everything I do, I'm working these principles into it. And I'll try not to take all of our time with the background. So the first principle is, for now, right now, focusing on the physical, emotional, and spiritual healing for yourself and your family. So right now, Spirit is calling all of us that are sensitive, that are healers, to heal ourselves and to be ready to move into our callings of how we heal, how we create with this new world. And new world doesn't mean it's going to automatically be this big, I'm trying to think of the word, Shangri-La. It's not going to be this big thing, but systems will shift. And things will eventually shift, but it's up to us to do that. But the first part is working on ourselves, and it probably takes help. So when we talk about soul retrieval and inner child healing and those other things that Magdalena and I both do, then that's a part of that. And you usually need to get help with that. You can do some yourself, but it's okay to get help. So by healing ourselves and working to heal our families and our relationships, then we are the hollow bone or I call it the open pipe in Reiki, to be the channel for spirit to bring the healing to the earth and to other people. So that's the first principle, is just dealing with your own poop. Poop is my clinical term. My clients know that they've been diagnosed with poop to deal with. So the second,
and maybe just for sake of time too, I want you to go through all of them, but we might because I might want to pull out a little bit. So either go through all of them really quickly, Gary, or if you want to expand upon them, I just might not be able to pull out. So if you wanted to go through maybe like the first 5, and then we can expand upon them and kind of wrap back and forth. What do you think? I'll let you decide. I'm open.
I'll run through them real quick. The second part is realizing that spirit and God are in all things. They're in nature. We can connect with spirit through nature, and then also working on our connection with spirit in ourselves, and then connecting with nature and others and spirit through regular ceremonies. So that's the second one. Third one I stole from Matthew Fox, and giving him credit for, he has a group called Order of the Sacred Earth, and it's making a vow that you will be the best lover and protector of the earth and nature that you can be, whatever that means to you. The rest of them are mine. Fourth is connecting with the earth itself and nature. So one is recognizing we can connect with spirit through the earth. The fourth one is connecting with the earth, spending time in nature. What message does Mother Earth have for you today? And yes, you can talk to trees and hear back from trees. So we're talking about that in my shamanism class. Fifth is honoring your ancestors. So there's 3 types of ancestors: your bloodline ancestors that you're born with, your spiritual tradition ancestors, and the people that lived on the earth where you live. Honoring them, connecting with them. Creating healthy rites of passage for young people, especially through creation of a ceremony dealing with the earth, connection with the earth. So we don't give a lot of positive ceremonies or recognition of rites of passage for our young people. So that's missing. The 7th one is honoring and connecting with the living elders in your community. So that may not be, or it may be, your bloodline family, but especially people that are on a similar spiritual wavelength. And then, connecting them with the young people. So that's 7. 8 is beginning to consciously reimagine and recreate the world with others that are on a spiritual path. 9 is building a tribe, building an actual group, and using these principles as a part of that. And then 10, when things get so challenging, is sharing resources, helping each other, being there for each other, whether it's inner healing or whether somebody's kids outgrow clothes and somebody else's kids can use them, just simple things. So that's my quickie version.
Wow. All very amazing. And those, just so you know, for anyone who's listening, it's all going to be in the show notes. At least I hope that's okay, Gary, that I include those
Absolutely.
in the show notes. I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to share with you mine. Out of all of those, if I know it's probably hard because you're even more intimately connected, what are your top two favorites?
Gosh, you gotta do them in order. So I don't know that I can choose favorites, but number two is really important of healing the spiritual path, because connecting with spirit through the earth and connecting with spirit inside are where a lot of those things flow from. I am going to add another little Gemini side note. I created a very basic no frills website, which isn't done yet, but it's up at createnewhorizons.org. And it has all the principles on it. And if you want to get in contact with me, or you want to start your own group locally, then that's the place to do that.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And I will share that in the show notes as well. So everyone can go check that out. Since you mentioned it, why don't you say it one more time?
createnewhorizons.org is the New Horizons site. It's super no frills. It's quickie. It's not done yet, but it's there. And then my regular site is hawkshamanichealing.com.
Okay, cool. I was just going to say, can I share with you my favorite too?
Yes, please.
And I do want to go back to what you said, how they do deserve to be done in order. So hold that thought. For me, what's really helped me a ton is honoring my ancestors. I didn't realize how important that was for me, how lost that I was, not again dissing religion. It's just more of, a lot of our answers are inside of us. Jesus himself said the kingdom of heaven lies within. Well,
Right.
inside of us are our ancestors. Inside of us is our blood, our DNA. And we teach. My husband and I teach connecting with your wise and healed ancestors and honoring them. And I've got my little, I guess I'll call it altar, where I have that honoring, and I provide them with coffee or tobacco, sometimes whiskey, depends on the day or the week and what's in the kitchen. But to be able to really give them reverence, because we are them and they are us, and they're actually there cheering us on, whispering in our hearts and our ears to, because we're helping break a lot of those cycles as we birth this new earth. So that one I would have never, if you would have told me, I don't know, a year and a half ago, that's where it would have done a lot of help in my own healing of my religion wound and some of the other, traumas and things, the inner child stuff that you and I are so passionate about. I never would have realized how powerful that was going to be for me. And then I also like the building a tribe, that is going to be more and more important with this new earth, is, living off the land, supporting each other with food, services. We've had people help more and more now with our children just in the past year. We never did that before, not to the level that we are now. So it takes a village. And the tricky part with that is, I will say this actually goes back to your number one. If you don't do the work, the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional healing of whatever wounds are inside, like attracts like. So your vibe attracts your tribe. So I can see why you put that as number one. Because yeah, if you haven't done the work and your poop is pretty stinky, you're going to attract a lot of other, not so healthy people, which can be more damaging than it's worth. So that's just a public service announcement of why I think you probably have number one. But I'd love for you to share briefly, if you can, why you want people to do them in the order that you did them. I'm sure you can't do that very briefly, but do your best.
Okay. Well, number one is, like I said, all of us that are being called to some type of healing calling, now's our time to work on our own healing. And that's for us to be the open pipe, like I said. And so we can't really fulfill our callings in bringing in the new earth, the new system, unless we've worked through at least some of our stuff. So we're never 100% healed, but then working through enough of it that we're not held back by it. Sorry, I've got sinus stuff today, which you can hear. And well, going through all of them again, if we're creating healthy rites of passage for young people, connecting with elders, connecting with ancestors, you can see where we're pulling from Native American and indigenous cultures where in some cultures they still do some of those things, but in our Western European culture, from the Middle Ages on, we've lost most of that, especially in the States. But it's physically creating, but also creating on the inside what we want to create as a new system. And then, like you said, having the tribe, having the group do that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much. This was a lot to take in. And when is your book going to be complete?
That's a good question. I've been told by Spirit I'm writing 2. So I've got one for the Shamanic Trauma Healing and also for the principles, but I think the principles may come first. So hopefully in the next few months. And I've got a friend who has self-published on Amazon a few times. So she's kind of my guide with the ins and outs and the how-tos. So we'll see how that all goes. I hope in a few months.
Beautiful. Well, I'll visualize that for you, and I know you got the right steps to create it. Right, you've got all that you need, and again, I'll put his links in the notes. But you can go to createNewHorizons.org or HawkShamanichealing.com. I have some important announcements and one final question for you, Gary, after we hear a word from our sponsor. Be right back.
Healthy and Wealthy and Wise is proudly sponsored by the Soul Vine, your number one go-to source for ayahuasca microdosing. This ayahuasca is legal. It is the Cappy vine. There is no DMT extract or molecule as a part of it, and it can and will transform your life from the inside out. Supporting the Shipibo tribe from South America, this is my go-to source for healing. Learn more at microdosingforhealth.com.
Yay. And as I shared there, go ahead.
My friend, can I add one quickie thing? So we're forming a 501c3 nonprofit for New Horizons and also putting together resources for people who want to start their own New Horizons groups. So like we talked about, having your actual tribe in person in your local area is a big piece of that. So we want to help with that.
Beautiful. Awesome. And they can find out more by looking at your website and staying connected there too. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, just one quick announcement and then a final question for you, Gary, as we wrap up the show. Based on, you just saw microdosingforhealth.com. Remember, that's like my drum beat. If I have like a shamanic drum, that's my drum beat, just reminding you that mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health is all on the inside. It's just sometimes our minds won't quiet down enough. And I've been teaching a lot about my microdosing testimonials, the plant medicine testimonial that I just emailed and just shared with you. The brilliant transformations that are happening, especially in mental, physical, and spiritual health. So I have a class next Tuesday on May 21st at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So if you'd like to check it out, shoot me an email or connect with me on Facebook or however you can connect with me. You can also reach out to me via my website, microdosingforhealth.com, to sign up for that actual webinar on Tuesday, May 21st. So as we close, Gary, again, it's been so great to have you, and hopefully people take advantage and reach out to you to start their own communities as well as for healing purposes. When you hear the phrase healthy and wealthy and wise, it means a lot to me. And I ask every single guest, though, what does that phrase mean for you?
Wow. Okay. You have to get in touch with your own calling and know where you're going. So when I work with clients, we work on the inner healing, that they work on their inner healing, but they're also defining where they're going at the same time. So you can't be healthy, wealthy, and wise without doing the inner healing steps and moving into your calling at the same time. So if working on inner healing is like pulling the weeds out of the garden, you want to be planting the seeds of where you want to go, or you have barren ground. So if you do those steps, then you'll be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I think, as I transformed, I got more to what you just said, and this podcast has evolved as a result. So as always, guys and gals, we just want to say thank you for tuning in, whether live or on the replay. Always looking for any wished or desired content that you have. So please reach out to me as well. Again, until next time, here's to your best health, your best wealth, and your best wisdom. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe, download, leave a 5-star rating or review, and also please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from this inspirational message. We hope to see you again. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel or join my Facebook community. And if you are looking to manifest your best health, your best wealth by trusting your best wisdom within, please go to my website, www.microdosingforhealth.com. Again, www.microdosingforhealth.com. to quiet your mind, get into your heart, heal your body, and manifest your best health and your best wealth.